Love is beautiful, but the mistake a lot of men make is believing that loving a woman means losing yourselves in the process. Love alone doesn't build respect, it doesn't build trust, and definitely does not build a healthy relationship. If you truly love a woman, there are 7 things you should never do, no matter how emotionally attached you are. Let's get into them. Number one, don't lie to keep the peace. You see this one, a lot of men do it, especially when you find a woman you're so attracted to. She keeps displaying characters that don't settle well with you, but in your mind, you're like, you don't want trouble, you just want peace to reign. One time in my relationship, before we got married, my husband would always say something like, it's okay, it's okay. And I knew deep down that it's not okay. And I could tell that he was avoiding the difficult conversation because to him it's just too stressful. Oh, I'm not in the mood for this. Oh, you just like to drag things too much. Oh, can we just talk about this another time? At first, I thought it was love. But over time, I realized that, come, we're not getting any closer. That's when I understood that keeping the peace is not the same as building a healthy relationship. Every lie creates a crack in trust. Don't just say, abeg, I no want this woman wahala today. Having honest conversations may be difficult today, but dishonesty creates bigger problems tomorrow. Relationships are supposed to make us better, but how can they if we constantly avoid the difficult conversations that make us grow? Imagine your woman has developed this habit of overspending. Every time she's just buying things out of impulse, things that she doesn't even really need. And it's almost as if she has become a spendthrift. And then when you bring it up, she becomes so defensive and she says things like, hey, you don't love me anymore now. What is it? What did I even spend? Just this small money I used to just spoil myself a little. You're complaining. Look at Chooks, Emeka, Adebayo. See how they spoil their women. This is like emotional blackmail. It's like making you feel like you're not man enough, or maybe you're wrong for talking about it. So she keeps whining, and you, instead of calmly revisiting the conversation, you quietly back off. You stop mentioning the issue, not because it has been resolved, but because you want to keep the peace. Meanwhile, the bills keep piling up, resentment start building. And one day you just explode over something that is so trivial, and the woman will be like, is it this small thing that is making you this angry? The truth of the matter is that you've kept so much inside that you've not talked about, you've not discussed. Why? Because you always want to keep the peace. If she's doing something that you know you're not comfortable with, like you don't want this, say it as they hot, because temporary peace built on dishonesty almost always leads to bigger problems later. Number two, don't lie to buy her love. Providing is very admirable, but if the only way you keep her interested is by spending money, then you've built the relationship on a weak foundation. Let me tell you one simple truth about us. When you meet a woman and make her want you by spending, the day you don't spend or spoil her or do any of those things, she'll begin to think that you don't love her anymore. See, some of us can be like children. We get used to something and we just think that it's going to continue like that. It takes a highly reasonable woman, a woman who is very self-aware and who is so present and aware of things, to understand that, okay, every day is not Christmas. Of course, it's not advisable for you to be so transparent with your finances, especially if you've not married that woman, because if she turns out to be someone who doesn't really have your interest at heart, she might just run you down. Number three, never make her the center of your entire world. Relationship comprises of two wholesome individuals who are whole mentally and emotionally. If you put a woman on a pedestal in a relationship, automatically she begins to see that you take her to be so important. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you love a woman, you should not make her feel important. But when you place her on a pedestal, and by that I mean leaving every other thing you do in your life just to focus on her, she's going to feel like you're just too present. Like some people will say women are confused. When you focus and give them attention, they are complaining. When you don't give them attention, they are complaining. I think what they are missing is the word balance. Women are not confused. Everything in life requires balance. Whether it's food you're eating or water you're drinking, if you overdrink water, you're going to become sick. If you eat too much, you become a glutton, you become too big and you become sick. So everything requires balance. If you find a woman you love, do not put her on a pedestal. Do not leave every other thing that matters to you and focus on loving her. That alone is not going to keep her, because what will happen is that you begin to lose on your finances. Maybe you begin to lose yourself in the process. Whatever it is that attracted her to you in the first place might now start diminishing in her eyes, and she would eventually leave. So you see, just try and strike the balance. Like, I wouldn't even want you to be in a relationship with me and you don't have any other friends. I shouldn't be the only friend you have. For that relationship to be balanced, we need to also have our individual life, somehow a little distraction on the side that will just take our attention away from the relationship. And when we converge later on, everything is reinforced, the relationship is more interesting, and the love is even better and sweeter. In order to avoid unnecessary disappointment and pain, it's better for us to nourish our individual identities. Balance is attractive, obsession is not. Number four, never ignore your standards. If there's one thing we respect in a man, is a man who has boundaries. So do not let yourself to be walked all over just because you're in a relationship. You think you're doing all of that for her to like you and be with you, but it's actually counterproductive. Because a man who doesn't have standards, in a woman's mind, she's like, hey, if I can walk all over this one, then every other person out there is going to do the same. And where does that leave you? She begins to lose respect for you. And the moment she loses respect for you, to love you becomes difficult. It becomes painful. If you're the kind of person who doesn't, you cannot tolerate your wife or your woman talking to an ex, like having lengthy conversations, laughing, meeting up, and all of that, you make it clear. Now, one thing about relationship is that compromise is a constant thing. But there's a difference between you sacrificing the movie you want to watch just to watch the one your woman loves. That's like a mild sacrifice. Like, okay, let's see a movie, let's just chill. And I'm like, I want to see romance. And you're like, you like crime movies. But at the end of the day, just because you want me to be happy, you now say, okay, let's watch a romance movie. You say, you like Telemundo. We laugh about it. You watch my movie that I like. That's like compromise, but it's a milder form of compromising. But what I'm talking about, that there are things that are so intense, things like comparison. If you don't want a woman to compare you to any other man out there, and she constantly does it, you should be stern with maintaining your standards, because eventually one day it's not just going to be about comparison anymore. Maybe she will begin to go out to test the waters. Number five, ignoring serious red flags and hoping that she will change. One thing that marriage has taught me over the years is that people do not change. Early on in my marriage, there was one time my husband, I just noticed that if he removes his clothes, he would keep it in a particular place and he might leave it there for for a long period of time. And I'm wondering, how can somebody be doing like this? Why is he doing like this now? And I started like, you say, do this thing like this now, do it like this now. I was thinking that if I keep talking like that, he's going to change. Lo and behold, he's still the same. Now, this is a red flag that I can live with, because when we talk about red flags, it's not everything that is deadly that you cannot live with. There are things that you cannot live with, and there are things that you can live with. So you have to decide, and it's not the same for everybody. For me, I can live with maybe a man who would just keep his shoe somewhere and he will not arrange it the way I want it to be arranged. To me, I can help him do that. But to someone else, they can't stand it. Recently I heard this story that was so hilarious, but at the end of the day, I learned something from it. This couple had just gotten married. It was a new, like very fresh wedded couple. And they were just chilling in the parlor. The woman lay her head on the man's body and they were just watching a movie. And the next thing, she had one thunderous sound. According to her, the guy farted. And she just jumped up and shouted, Jesus, what was that? And the man started laughing. He's like, it's just fat now. Why are you being all worked up? It's just he kept laughing. And she took it seriously. She said, how can you be fatting like this, like an animal? No, I can't deal with this. Do you know that marriage ended just because of that issue, that small thing that happened? To me, it's a small thing. Like, I can manage what's there, it's just fat. Worst case scenario, I'll give myself some space, let the smell be over, and I'll come back. But you can see that to another person, that was just it, because that issue deteriorated into something else. They started having issue, and eventually that marriage could not stand. This is a typical example of telling you that there are things that are red flags to me, but to you, they are not red flags. So identify what works for you and do not think that anybody is going to change. People don't change that easily. Imagine that you're marrying a woman that is almost 30 years old. She did not change for the entire 30 years of her life living with her parents. Is it with you that she will now change? People rarely change. So the mistake a lot of men make is that, no worry now, I know the woman. Once I marry her, she go do all right for my house. No, it doesn't always work out like that. Number six, never say yes when you mean to say no. And this is where the yes man comes into play. There are men who everything is yes. Yes, your highness. Yes, your majesty. Yes, this. Yes, that. It's not every time you want to say yes. And this, I know, yes, a lot of people will be like, but even in our everyday life is applicable. Yes, it is. Even in our everyday life, it's not everything that I want to say yes to. For example, you want me to hang out with you this evening, and I know that I'm not just feeling it. I don't want to go out. I just want to be in my own company and have my own peace. If I don't want it, I should be able to say no in a very polite manner. Okay, I won't be coming out this evening, but maybe some other time we can find a way around it and still hang out. Saying yes all the time is going to make you lose attraction in the eyes of a woman. One thing about boundaries is that it protects both parties. It's not just about you anymore. When you have boundaries, a woman is watching and she's understanding that, okay, yes, this guy He doesn't, when he says no, he means no. When he says yes, he means yes. It's going to make her respect you the more. Number 7, never lose your self-respect just to keep a relationship. You know, when they talk about people pleasing, even I can be like that sometimes. You know, there are people who just come to you and you just want to please them somehow. That's people pleasing comes, and people pleasing is always associated with low self-esteem, because the lower your self-esteem, the more you want to please people. Even in your relationship, when you're less confident in yourself, you just feel like you have to do certain things so that they can see you in certain lights. It doesn't always work out well. That's the funny thing about this whole thing, because you think that you're doing someone a favor, but they look at you and they lose respect for you. So never lose your self-respect in the name of keeping the peace or in the name of keeping a relationship. Maybe you don't like your head to be slapped and somebody is just slapping your head left, right, and center just because she's making a joke. Maybe it's even in a work setting. She's passing by, she's hitting you from the shoulder, she's hitting you from the ear and from the head, and you're just laughing, you're just smiling. I don't no no no. If you know you don't like it too, because it's possible that you like it, but if you know you don't like it, do not just say because you want to keep that relationship with that person, maybe it's someone you're crushing on or someone you just like, then you continue to keep yourself. No, it doesn't always work out. Always maintain your self-respect and then bring it back to relationship. The same thing applies. Maybe she's the kind of person who, when you go out in a family gathering, she's always making jest and making jokes, talking about your affairs in a joking way. But at the end of the day, you don't like it because people are now laughing at you. You don't find it funny. You have to call it out. When you do this, it's going to make you keep your self-respect. And even if the relationship doesn't work out, wherever she finds herself, she's going to know that she once upon a time met a man who has respect for himself. In fact, enough to be able to call her bluff. Because at the end of the day, when you keep doing these things, you're going to lose the relationship in the long run. I hope this helps someone. Thank you so much for watching. If you're seeing my face for the very first time, my name is Wendy Zale. And if you like this video, don't forget to click that thumbs up, subscribe if you have not done so, and I'll see you in the next one.